Hey everyone, welcome to FMA Talk Live. I'm your host, Datu Tim. I'm joined currently by Tuhon Jesse, and Mark Mikita is trying to get in here. We're just having some technical difficulties. So we're going to start the show, get things going, and once he comes in, we'll get everyone caught up to speed on that. So as always, when people are making comments, tell us what part of the world you're logging in from. And there's Mr. Wolf. I know where he's from. He's from Ohio. I know Mr. Wolf. But it's good to say hello to me. But this is Tuhon Jesse. So please say
Hello. Hello, everybody. How you guys doing?
All right. So let me hopefully that Mark will hear me as we're talking about it. Stuart, Virginia. There we go. Thank you, David. Last week we had a barn burner. We did cultural appropriation in Filipino martial arts, whether it was true or not. Had like 195 comments. Crazy. There we go. Hello, Tuhon Jesse. There we go. So Mr. Wolf is one of my guys down in Ohio. So
okay.
It was a really good one. We talked about different things here and there. Talked about actually, as a Gen Xer, we were always brought up that the States were a melting pot and we share each other's culture. So, but there was a comment that recently came up by someone. It wasn't my fault that I was taught Filipino martial arts. And I'm like, okay, I don't know how I feel about that. Say hello, all your amazing FMA and modernist peeps out there. And Tim. Okay, yeah. So Matt does that a lot. So say, hey guys, and Tim. There's a few guys that do that. So our show is very fun, maybe. Oh, here we go. Troy J from Milwaukee. Cool. So,
hello, Troy. Nice to see you.
Today's theme is running a Filipino martial arts school. So I'm going to talk about. I mentioned it last week. I'm going to mention it again. And I during the show. Okay, so when we talk about stuff today, because I want to talk about advice and stuff like that. If you are the exception, I want people to make sure that I did this. Well, you might be an exception. Like it's hard. Oh yeah, there he is, the man, the myth.
There he is.
I'm gonna take the logo off because blocking that there. Hey, Mr. Mark, how we doing, sir?
I'm well. How are you?
Good.
Good to see you guys.
All right. I was curious to see which hairstyle was showing up today.
I know Mohawk for a while.
Okay.
It's my psychotic summer break. So.
Okay. Cool. So I'm gonna do a quick introduction for everybody. We just started. I just got it going, so people know that we're still up. We got so far 10 people logged in, but we will have a lot more people chiming in, and then usually with the video afterwards, we'll probably have 2,000 to 3,000 people watching these posts, which is good. Last week's was a real barn burner, and thanks for joining the conversation last week, the dialogue, Mark. That was great.
That was great. I enjoyed this.
Yeah. So I'm just looking. We should be able to see. Okay. Right now, if you go to Datu Hartman Facebook page, this is being broadcast. If you want to share this to your personal pages, you can share it right from there. Oh, cool. Whether you do it live or you do it afterwards. So I'm going to share it on my personal page right now because I'm going to do that. So I want to talk about the genesis of today's show. And yes, the guy. Okay. Yes, the guy's on the bottom there. Yes. Well, actually, it was like, what the heck happened? His face. Okay, and then it was because when I had you on another way, the Punisher skull was covering up your face there. So I'm actually probably going to do this. I'm going to go to my.
I can just lean.
just get rid of it. It's gone. I don't even need it. We don't need it there.
There you go.
You know who we are. With your names, you can put. Okay, now I got to get back to where I was. comments. Where is it? Okay, with your names, you can put a URL down there or a hashtag so people can follow you. So if they want to know more information about it. So, guys, this has been about. Someone told me that we could not have a professional Filipino martial arts school, and in my mindset, that's a bad mindset. I think any martial art could be done. Now, there's specific styles in Filipino martial arts that I don't think are conducive to running a full-time school. There's always exceptions. And when we talk about stuff, and I'm glad you joined us right when you did, Mark, what I want to do is talk about when we're talking about something, we may be the exception for something, such as one of my guys teaches in Atlanta, Georgia, and he's in the movie industry. He was in Cobra Kai and a whole bunch of other projects. But he's recognizable in Cobra Kai, which is the important part. He teaches a program on camera combatives, and it's very weapon centric because his clientele are people in the industry, both actors, both acting as well as stunts. So he can do things that wouldn't work in Buffalo because even though there's we do have people pushing movies here now. With the tax breaks, and there's a lot of pros why you would film in Buffalo. At the end of the day, there's not that quantity of movies going here where I could be constantly teaching that kind of clientele and doing a weapons only program. So there are definitely systems out there that are harder to teach. Like my Balintwalk specifically is weapon dueling. I know Grandmaster Bobby Tabuada is putting open hand combatives in, but even with that, it's not enough to run a dedicated school unless you're in one of those specialty niche situations. So I understand why some people say you can't run an FMA school, but there are plenty of things we can do to supplement with other Filipino styles. But there we go. Hey Datu, guess who? No surprise for you. Okay, I know. Okay, so we've got a lot of people, a lot of smack talk on the show. You've seen the shows before, so I know how it goes. We are not uptight here. We will address pretty much anything. I am blunt because I am Gen X Prime, first year of Gen X. I turn 65 next month. Actually, the weekend you're teaching a gig in Florida, Jesse, I'm doing my birthday camp here. So,
yay! Happy birthday!
Thank you.
When is
Actually,
your birthday?
Wednesday, but we're doing it that weekend. So, I turned 60. So but. Hey, good evening, gentlemen, from Chattanooga, Tennessee, and greetings from.
Hey, Brian, how you doing?
All right, so just when we're talking in general, and people when you're chiming in, realize the difference between the norm versus the exception, and that's what I want to talk about is the norm. We're always going to have an exception. Never do this until that, Happy birthday! Yes, thank you so much. So what I want to do, and I want to do a dedicated show on both of you individually. If you have a good time and you want to come back, I'd love to feature you guys on all of your exploits. But today we're going to be talking about school. So what I'd like to do, and is Gen X Prime along with Amazon Prime. Okay, there we go. See this shit? I put up with this stuff all the time. So, what I just want to do is maybe like a 3-minute intro of each of you, and then we'll hop in the show. So. Mark, since you just sucked down some water, could you tell us? I've heard about you for decades. I know absolutely nothing about you, which is why I want to have you on another show. I mean, I know a little about you, but we've never crossed paths. I always see your name out there. You keep popping up. But there's a lot of question marks, and I want to know who the heck is Mark Mikita?
Well, how do I start answering that question?
3 minutes, though. You only got 3 minutes.
3 minutes. Well, I was born. Let's see. I don't even know I don't know how to answer that question. I'm teaching here in Los Angeles. Had a martial arts school in Los Angeles since the early '80s. Actually opened my martial arts school in 1978, and then moved. I was born in California, so I moved back to California in '82. So started martial arts very early, and Filipino martial arts very early. My father, if you've read anything about me, my father fought in the Philippines in World War II, and had a lot of personal interactions with guerrillas who led him into the jungles and in pursuit of the Japanese. So when I became crazy interested in martial arts, my dad didn't know, back in the 40s, nobody even said the word martial arts. So he didn't know what it was called, but he kept saying, we need to find you Filipino martial arts. And that took a while. It was a couple of years into my martial arts training before we found someone. I ended up, my initial teacher was just a gunnery sergeant at an adjacent army base that my dad ran into. And it was his uncle taught that kind of family martial art. I think the best thing about him was that he was a gunnery sergeant. So he was only about bashing your brains out. So it was very, very focused on application rather than on any stylistic nuances. So, but then I've studied on and on since then. Trained at the Inosano Academy back in the early '80s for a time. Not a huge length of time. I think a lot of I was in the senior classes back then, and a lot of the seniors kind of went their separate ways when things changed at the academy. So I've stayed here ever since and had a school here. My last professional commercial location was like 2 blocks away from the Inosano Academy. So and I had no problem running a school there. I've never gone out of business. So I don't know if that answers the question. I'm just rambling.
No. This is a good start. So I mean, you've been doing this as a business for a while, which because people want to know, because we're going to be asking us some questions, and you're also involved with the movie industry.
Yes, an actor, also fight choreographer. Yeah.
There you go. So I mean, and then which once again, all of us may have some unique things that are unique to us that may not be the norm. So, if you're asking questions or if we're saying stuff, just make sure that hey, by the way, I can pull this off because I'm in LA. I've got a bunch of high-paying clients, or hopefully have high-paying clients. I'm assuming the rent's high out there, so it's got to offset the two. All right, Jesse. So Jesse's in the Chicago area, if I'm not mistaken. And yes, I really want to on the show because I want to talk to. I love archery, and I saw you do archery in the club, so I definitely want to talk about that because I started off homemade bows and arrows at 10 years old with the neighborhood would do reeds and we do combat shooting each other until somebody bought a real bow and arrow, and that stopped really quickly. But I continued going to the local archery range because I really enjoyed shooting, and I still do it to this day. I've got a range out in my backyard. Got about a little over an acre of property. So I set up I haven't shot since my car accident, my surgery. So this summer I'm looking forward to getting back out. And last summer I split my first arrow, which I was very excited about. But it's expensive.
Yeah, it is.
So, but Tuhon Jesse, please give us a little FYI about yourself there.
Well, sure. So my name is Jesse. I was in the United States Navy for 21 years, 6 months, and 14 days.
Thank you for your service.
Oh, thank you. After that, once I retired, I decided to pursue a dream of going back to martial arts, and more specifically, Filipino martial arts. As I was in the Navy, throughout the different duty stations, I would go to different martial arts schools and learn different things, but I've always enjoyed the Filipino martial arts. And one of the first schools I went to was the Arnis Dimano School, the Cepeda Brothers in San Diego. I was stationed there for quite a while, trained with them for a little bit. They're Babao Arnis base. And then, got stationed here, there, Okinawa, you got to do the karate thing in Okinawa, right? So did that. Once I retired, I decided to kind of pursue a little bit more in depth in Filipino martial arts. I happened to run into Grand Tuhon Leo T. Gahi Jr. and became really connected with him, trained with him for several years, went through all these seminars. I followed him, in 2018, I started my Combat Warrior Academy school, where we do a lot of things. We do FMA, outdoor survival, archery, rifles, pistols, so you name it all. And then I think it was 2022, right after all the COVID stuff, I joined and partnered with North Shore Martial Arts Academy in Libertyville, Illinois, where I'm still there. I'm teaching there. I run several programs there. I run Pikiti Tarsha Kali for both adults and the youth programs. I do the stick fighting Olympiads for both adult and the youth program. I run tournaments there. And then the unique thing is that we do archery in the school. So we have a little range in the back, targets. We have a curtain to prevent the arrows from going through and hitting all the kicking bags and so forth. So, uh, but I also teach a lot in a gun range. So I do several things, but primarily FMA is what I enjoy most. And here I am. I hope that was 3 minutes.
You know, we're not really sticklers for here, so. But no, that's good. That's excellent. So very diverse. Okay. I've had Horizon Martial Arts since 1988. Actually, I started teaching before I was a black belt. Our system does a belting system, but I had left my initial instructor, Remy. I went to the Filipino Karate Academy. Remy Praces was a silent partner of the school. I had left due to some business disagreements on things. I was teaching for a year, and then the instructor wanted to put me back in the learning rotation, which is what I was asking for. But then it's like, okay, we'll get you, we'll get you hooked back up on tuition. I'm like, dude, I've taught for a year for you, and you haven't been giving me my lessons. We'll take a month off. We'll talk about it, and we'll came back and. That conversation never happened. In the meantime, the Grandmaster reached out to me directly and evidently got the phone number from John and said, well, if you want to continue training, I'll teach you. So that was it. So I started teaching then, but I don't want to say I didn't consider legit, but coming up, there was this mindset you had to be a black belt or the equivalent thereof. So even though my DBA started before then and stuff, I count the year I became an official black belt, which was supposed to be 87, but things went sideways, and the extra year made me a better black belt anyway. So I started in 1988 officially, my counting. It was the nation's only successful modern Army school, to my knowledge. There was 2 other schools that I knew of that were dedicated to the art. Neither one was successful. The Filipino Karate Academy, where I came out of, and then Rocky Paswick out of Detroit had a school. So 2000, I went full time. So I have definitions. So I've got full-time clubs, full-time school, completely, part-time school. So I started teaching out of a gym. And there's a difference between being a professional martial artist and being a school owner, just like being a personal trainer and being a gym owner. And we talked about this a whole bunch of times. And I think people teaching out of your garage to me is not a school. That's a training group. But it doesn't mean you can't be professional about it and make good money doing that. My thing, hey, Errol, my thing has always been, do you have 24/7 access to your place? And does it pay for itself? Does it pay for your expenses? So I have a full-time school. It pays for my car, it pays for my food, it pays for my gas. I can support my family with that. I had a part-time school where I had a full-time job. I did full-time hours, but the school didn't pay for me. I just kept reinvesting the money in the school because it was just all about the training. Then I had the opportunity to go full-time, and I took it. I was able to take my profession or my passion and turn it into a profession. But that's also September 11th happened. My teacher was so August 28th, 2001, Professor Praces dies. September 5th, I get wiped out. Our 65 Mustang gets destroyed when we're sitting in it, and someone hit us at 55 miles an hour. And then September 11th happened days after that. A lot of bad things happened, but it was all because of all the timing of things. That actually was some of the things that pushed me into doing this full time. Hey, Sam, what makes a style more teachable to the general public? What characteristics, style keeping better for a studio full time? So I'm going to give my opinion, and I'd love to hear from you guys. I think if you're not a specialty, like a unique situation, it needs to be able to do all the needs. Can you teach people basic self-defense? So there's arts. I do balance walk. I love my balance walk, but it's by definition stick dueling. not a lot of need for stick dueling in Western New York. There might be another part, but when people are looking, to put their kids' gross motor skills, character development, modern Arnis does a little of everything. I'm not saying the best at everything. I go, we punch, kick, we lock, throw, we do our weapon training. Obviously, we're very stick centric, but I've gone into open karate tournaments and we've won. We are very competitive when we train for that venue. I also train for other venues. So we're not a tournament school. We're a school that does tournaments. But I think you need to be able to teach basic self-defense, where a lot of these schools that I see that they're clubs, they let their people do other open hand combatives to fill in those deficiencies. Oh, you want to learn how to punch kick? Do Jeet Kune Do, do kickboxing, do something else, jiu-jitsu. And they, so I think like Tapato, which is a very straightforward smash with a double stick. I don't think you see a Tapato school. Like Kendo. How often do you see Kendo schools versus schools that have Kendo programs in it? But Mark, what do you think? What do you think? Not me. Don't disregard everything I said. What do you think you'd look for to see like a full-time school? What styles would be more?
Well, I think first of all, I don't want to sound too philosophical, but to me, the student is more important than the style. So what are the students looking for? More often than not, the interest may be drawn by the flash of seeing weaponry, but that's not going to last very long if there's not some meat behind it. So I think teaching principles by their very nature are universally applicable, whether it's empty hands, knife, stick, whatever. So I'm always focusing on principle. I oftentimes, a good analogy I use, and you can steal it and give credit where credit's due, is the analogy of a hologram. If I take a holographic image and I drop it on the ground and pick up the individual pieces, the entire image will be on every single piece. It'll just be from a different perspective. So I kind of look at Filipino martial arts the same way, that the principles are so universal that I can begin a student anywhere. They can begin in empty hands, they can begin in knife, they can begin in a stick, because the principles are the same. The principles are just sometimes more easily accessed and understood when you use something that has greater motion. For example, the stick is much easier to see. We as human beings are tool users, so you put a tool in somebody's hand and they start immediately being able to understand how to function with it, whereas empty hand skills are much more subtle. So again, less about the style and more about what is the audience looking for. I oftentimes cross-reference. I'll teach Balinto arc, or I'll show something from my Inosanto days, or anything like that. I don't give any delineation between the two unless somebody's training to become an instructor. And then I'll say, oh, this comes from this comes from this. So they have a sense of the roots of things. But beyond that, it all just comes down to how can I make this student a functional practitioner of this art. So it's all about principle and also the individual student's needs. I have everything from surgeons to mechanics, and I can't hurt my students or my surgeons' hands. The mechanics come in with hurt hands. So it's a juggling act when you're teaching a group like that. So I can go on and on, but I want to leave some space here.
Excellent answers. Tuhon Jesse, what are your thoughts?
I agree with Mark. It's not necessarily the style, but for me, part of our teaching is how to teach. If you teach very well, it almost doesn't matter what you're teaching, because you're able to sell the product, right? And in looking at schools, looking at our school, North Shore Martial Arts Academy, we have many different styles, but the people come in and looking for a specific thing for either their children, right? They don't want maybe some don't want the weapon systems or so forth. They would want just hands and feet, right? So, but to continue them going, is you have to have an instructor that knows how to teach, how to connect with the students, how to make that style deliverable to that student. So it's not more so the style, but I think the quality of instructors that you bring into the school, or the quality instruction that you bring to the students that come in and see you, I think is really important. And again, connecting with that school, the customers, the community. I think that's I think more important than the style, because inherently martial arts, it's supposed to be able to defend yourself, right? Because martial art, any style, right? Back in the day, you had all the kung fu styles, and they're all supposed to be able to fight and defend themselves within those different styles. Same thing with other styles that we see out there in different schools. But again, what brings the student in and keeps them in, I think, is the instructors that are delivering the lessons and so forth. So.
I think one of the things I like to chime in on this is, unfortunately, the Filipino martial arts aren't necessarily have the same. Some of the styles don't have the same depth as others.
Sure.
And I think if we do a side by side comparison to, say, some of the Japanese, Okinawan, and Chinese martial arts, it's apples. They're apple to oranges. Some styles are very, very limited. And I think ultimately, like Mark said, what are the needs of the people coming through the door? And if all we're doing is weapon systems, it's hard to help everyone. So I mean, I really think if you don't have open, I mean, Mark just made a good point. He's sometimes you use weapons, sometimes you use open hands. If you came into a system that does not have that diversity, and your training is only Tapado, what do you do? If it's only fencing, how do you? If we want to equate it to something else, it's like being a fencer. How is that going to help you in your day-to-day program? Now, people come in for different things. People come in for fun, fitness, social interaction. Some for self-defense. My only thing is that if you're working about self-defense, that we need to make sure we tell the difference between historical combat and modern combat. And I think some things that we do, and this is I make the comment, people don't like it. Sometimes we're cosplaying and I'm watching and I'm saying, this is good self-defense. I'm like, when was the last time you saw two Filipino martial artists go at it? I mean, we're one, and the easy math is martial artists are less than 1%, but we're going to round up to 1 for easy math. So 1% of the population does martial arts. And these are stats I get from work. I'm a member of MAIA, the Martial Art Industry Association, that's owned by Century. So they get the stat. They know exactly how many schools are in the country, how much the clients. So I'm going with facts, not fiction. Not oh no, these other no. I mean, do the math in your own town. How many people are in your town? What's the population? Look for a school. I've got 45,000 people in my town. I do not have 450 students. And neither does the school down the road. And collectively, we don't have 450 students. So, the thing here is Filipino martial artists are 1% of that, which means we're 1 in 10,000. I love training against other Filipino martial arts because that's skill development. But if we're talking about people learning how to protect themselves, we have to make sure that we can offer those things. And I think sometimes some of the FMA programs out there, they were taught as a weapon-only system, and it was more the art and history and tradition. And I don't think they worked on. I think all the systems have what they need, but maybe they didn't work on the needs of me. So, like, we always use rattan, but like in my area, it's baseball bats, axe handles, and shovels. It's not a little hunk of rattan. I mean, right. I want to know what aisle of Home Depot has that, because I'll buy all the rattan so I can make my sticks with it. But right. Let me see with some comment here. I find the fun challenge due to the fact that in Pabuan, our niece class alone, my youngest student is 13-year-old. My oldest is 83. Tuhon Jesse got me both of them in March. I enjoy teaching and adapt to any age. That's cool. There's a good one. So we talk about being able to teach all these different people. Some people don't know how to teach. Yeah. Yeah, here's the thing. When it started for me, it was very male centric. Some people, I mean, first of all, we have to have an environment that is, if we want to. So the thing is about how do we run a professional school? That's the gist of what we're talking about. Not necessarily, or how do we do this as a profession? It's got to be user. Well, it doesn't have to be, but it helps to be user friendly to everybody. I have kids that are 4 years old in my club, and that program, the Little Arnisadors, is geared for gross motor skills. It is the martial art preschool that gets into my junior Arnisadors, which are the 7 to 12-year-olds. Now, usually if they've been, they start at 4, 6 o'clock, at the age of 6, they're usually ready to go up early. Because, and we do stick fighting, but we use like pool noodles for that age and stuff like that. And we're working the angles of attack, and we're doing open hand stuff. And but we're not getting serious about this. It is just about prepping them to get to that next level. And some people don't know how to teach kids at all. And if you want to run a school and you don't have the ability to teach kids, you might want to try to get someone to help you on your team that does. But once again, you might be in a niche where you don't need to. The Princeton Academy, it was 90% of their people were adults, and it was a big school. Because I met the guy who bought it from was that Rick Tucci or Cucci?
Tucci.
Whoever had what?
Tucci.
Yeah, so he sold it. I met the guy who owned it, who bought it from him. I'm like, dude, we're 90% adults. I'm like, and he was just in that niche area, had that culture built. And I remember the days when I was 60% adults and only 40% kids, and now it's flip flop, but that's where I am, Jesse, you teach kids, right?
Oh yeah, I teach kids. But it goes back to being able to understand how to teach to the different audiences, right? So in our archery program, it's mostly kids, right? It's not Filipino martial arts, but the way we deliver the lesson to connect with the 10-year-old, the 11-year-old that's trying to pull this bow and trying to be positive when they miss the target, you have to have the personality to be able to handle that and to be able to turn that initially a negative situation to something positive, a lesson for that 10-year-old to say that, look, you try it, you fail it, but you got to get back up and you got to do it again, and eventually you become successful. We have, I think, and I want to do a shout out to Sensei Alex in North Shore Martial Arts Academy. I think he's one of the best youth instructors that I've seen. He connects with the kids very well, and more importantly, he connects with the parents.
How old is he?
What's that?
How old is he?
How old is he? Oh,
yeah.
Sensei Alex is in his late 30s.
Okay.
Yeah, but he's been around in the industry for quite a while, but he just has that personality. He connects with the kids. He connects with the parents. He talks to the parents as he's teaching. Kind of gets them involved. And I think we have a pretty robust program with our youth program because, and myself, I teach the kids for stick fighting. we do the padded sticks. We do tournaments, and we have to show them a way to develop the physical attributes in order to stick fight. That kind of translates later on when they get older and get more dynamic into their swinging of the stick and so forth. But you have to connect to the kids. You have to connect to the parents. It's the parents are the ones that are actually looking at you and making sure that your program is good to go, right? Because they could decide, and not necessarily the kids, to say, I'm going to let you keep going to that program, or I don't like the instructor, you're not going to there anymore. So I think the instructor is the key into teaching kids. They have to have the abilities to be able to read the kids and connect with them. So,
Mark, do you have any youth clientele?
I do not.
Okay.
I have never had a regular kids program. The one way that I will teach kids, and it does happen on occasion, is if somebody brings their son or daughter in and wants them to train, I'll say, I'll be happy to have them as a student if you are their partner. So they train in an adult class with you. That's worked out really good sometimes. I started as a kid, but when I was a kid, there was no such thing as a kids class. So it was you behave and are responsible like the adult students, and that's it. There was no leeway. I thought that was great. I grew up with a military father, so that was just a normal life. So, right. Me, I think it's great to teach kids. Obviously, they as you mentioned in the last podcast, in the PE programs in the Philippines, they do arnis. It's more of just an activity than it is a martial art, but it's still a good introduction. I always teach this art as a martial art. To me, there are other elements of it. It can be social interaction, it can be coordination, it can be fitness and so forth. But the foundation for me is always a martial application. So fortunately, I have enough of a reputation here that that's the kind of students and clientele that I draw.
That's good. Well, like I said, there's every area is going to have, something different. Like we're three different people. We're in three different regions. We have three different backgrounds. And because of that, we might all have something the other one doesn't have. And it may not be the norm for your areas for those who are watching. So, as the norm these days, Mark is the exception, having primary as an adult program. That is not the norm for most martial art programs. So congratulations, sir. It's great to have it that way, and, I mean, I like the kids. I'm a big kid at heart. What can I tell you? I've always enjoyed sparring. Actually, the kids make me better. Actually, when it comes to sparring, I love sparring the kids more than the adults, because the adults are always worrying about the consequences of hitting me too hard. Kids go all in. So everyone's like, how are you judging distance? What do you mean? I go, well, so-and-so swung a stick at you and you didn't move. Well, I'm sparring all the time. We don't spar all the time in the adult class. Oh, no, I'm sparring the kids. And when you say hit Datu, they don't twice. They're all coming up. Great train to try to jump at me, and I mean, and I looked at it this way, I'm once again, I don't have the movie industry to pull from. I don't. Buffalo's a different area. We all have different things. I wish we had a bigger. Well, we have a fair. Well, actually, we're in a small Filipino community here. I've probably only had about 10 Filipinos in my career looking to do their culture, because it's just not that many families. And I like if you're in the Bay Area, oh my God, I mean, you're in Filipino community centers and stuff like that, left and right, and it works out great, with being able to tie into that. Here, now, of course, I couldn't teach any of the culture. I could just teach the martial art portion of that, but like I said, when people are taking our advice, just remember to take everything with a grain of salt, because we all have different backgrounds. I know we're talking about schools in Toronto, and the one guy who's a beast up there is Cesar Borkowski. He's also in probably the biggest and most densely populated area in Canada. And obviously rent is much higher, but you do have a huge gene pool to pull from. So it's always got 400 people in every school. Yeah, but it's one of the biggest cities in the world. It's not like it's a little city, but you still got to do your work. Too many people come in through the front door and go out the back door. That was the problem when Karate Kid happened. No one knew how to teach kids. And all these schools, I know a school that was signed like 400 people up out of the blue, and then they're all gone because they didn't know how to retain them. They never taught kids. And the thing is, if you're going to teach kids, you need to know how to teach kids. If you're going to teach anyone, you need to do your research, and that's my biggest thing is we all back into it. We all did martial arts. It was fun. And somehow we ended up helping and teaching with somebody. And next thing you know, we find ourselves in a teaching position. And now, like the three of us, we either had a school or joined somebody else's school, but we're in that role. It's our profession. We didn't go to a martial business school. There's no things like that. So now I'm a member of Maya. They're elite and CMA now. And it's been very helpful on the business side of things. But then I realized I worked for Pizza Hut for a few years. And then I also worked for Advanced Auto Parts. And I retired from that. And looking at, after joining Maya, all the customer service training I went through with those companies were the same that they were teaching me in the martial art business. So ultimately, this is a customer service industry. People are paying us to teach them. And we can't get, I think sometimes some people get a little twisted. How dare you train at multiple schools? Well, they eat at multiple restaurants. They join multiple gyms. Why can't they do multiple martial arts? Especially, I remember the first time someone trained at another club, they did kickboxing, and I got twisted for about 2 weeks. And at the end of the 2 weeks, I go, what am I twisted about? I don't teach kickboxing. And they're still paying me my tuition. So what do I care?
I 100% agree.
We have been linked with the Filipino community here for some time, but surprisingly, it's hard to get them interested in Filipino martial arts or any other art for that matter. Well, I mean, the sad thing, even in the Philippines, our niece is still the minority over there when it comes to the commercial. Now, listen, it's in the school systems, but Mark already said this, and I'll be very blunt about it because that's my job on the show. They're learning the sport only. So, and you know what? It's great that the government got behind our niece, and that's the term. It should have been the FMA bill. It's the our niece bill. And since I teach our niece, I'm going to push it. It's not the Eskrima bill, it's not the Kali bill, it's not the whatever bill. It's the our niece bill. So, you know, if you don't do our niece, well, too bad. But it should have been the FMA bill. It was probably the biggest thing they did. Unfortunately, it's always been a gym course, but now it's a much stronger gym course. And now these kids are out there competing. And I've been there. I just finished my 10th trip over the Philippines, and I've seen things and asked questions and stuff. They are doing a great job of learning how to do the sport of our niece. But once they age out, they're done. And there are probably more kids in the Philippines doing FMA than the rest of the world's kids combined doing Filipino martial arts, because most people don't teach kids. That being said, when you flip it around to the adults, it's completely different, because once they age out, these kids will get sponsorships from colleges, or you know, they'll go to college and teach. They'll get recruited for an army team or something of that nature. But sooner or later, when they get out of that competitive age, they're out. And when you go to Luneta Park, where everyone's training, there is a huge difference between what you see in a school team and what you see training there. I mean, Riddell de Gut's got one of the biggest groups. They'll have 20, 30 people. There's a couple other groups. I hang out with them. I hang out with the Sir Arnold with the KI group, the Kiro group. There's probably 12 to 20 people, depending on the day. Depending on the week, I should say. But these are only classes 1 day a week on Sundays in the park. Now, some of them are actually doing private lessons and stuff like that. It's becoming more popular, but there's a complete disconnect between what's happening in the school system and what's happening teaching there. I mean, and Taekwondo and karate are still more popular there, which I didn't get after World War II. Why karate? I mean, I know it. You weren't getting busted up, and you can do your martial arts without having your hands smashed and still work. But it just, you know, it just seemed wrong to me. Not to have a problem with karate. It's just like, wait a minute, didn't you just have World War II? Weren't you just fighting them and you're doing their martial art? But that's okay. So one of the biggest arts, and I'm finding out the biggest growing arts in Germany when I go over there, Krav Maga. Isn't that an interesting one? I'm just saying. And as a German, I can say that. And the one time I was teaching, I'm like, is it just me, or do I find it interesting that all you Germans are doing an Israeli martial art after World War II? I'm just saying. Yeah, Sikaran as well. You know, Sikaran is big in the Philippines. It's huge, and I'm actually hosting the next international tournament for Sikaran here in Buffalo, first weekend of October. And we have padded stick fighting. You should bring your guys out here. And actually, let me know if you're doing an open tournament, Tuhon. I would like to bring a few people out to your tournament.
Oh, that'd be awesome. That'd be great. Yeah, we have a pretty big community here. We have several FMA groups throughout our area, and we all collaborate, and we all kind of, support each other. We have the Samarang Games, which is typically a Taekwondo tournament, but we've started stick fighting there.
Cool.
Padded sticks for the kids. And slowly moving to live sticks for the adults. I did several live stick tournaments. In fact, I did one where Tuhon Philip from Canada came as a judge, and
Yeah.
that was pretty interesting. It was the first live stick fighting tournament in the school, and it was pretty good turnout. But yeah, I think more and more of our schools in this area are starting to kind of inject the stick fighting um, training and tournaments into their area. I know Taekwondo is doing what they call, I think it's called combat or something like that, where they're introducing stick fighting. It's basically point fighting system with sticks, your padded sticks. So I think that's pretty cool, right?
So,
And then they invite some of the FMA instructors to, either teach or show them stick fighting. So,
Mark, have you ever gone down the competition route?
Only when I was a lot younger. I was, as you probably are, I was very turned off by the silliness of WCAF sparring, where you're standing face to face and doing all this.
I do have issues. I am currently the Great Lakes director of WCAF, but I'm looking at a bigger picture, and they've also added padded stick fighting. I do prefer the blade rules. I did like what GSBA does with their engagement style sparring. I've always had my own tournament league, but the thing here is I'm helping I joined WCAF for multiple reasons, and one of the reasons is that if we're talking about getting into the Olympics, they're the only group that's going to be able to pull that off. So they've made it to the Southeast Asian Games, the SEA Games. The next step is getting it into the Asian Games, and then from there on. And we're also trying to do something with the Pan Am Games as well. That being said, I'm a school that does. I'm not a tournament school. I'm a school that does go to tournaments, and I host one every year. But I mean, like, personally, when it comes to competing, I prefer point stick fighting or blade rules because it's easy for a spectator to understand what's going on.
I understand that.
When we used to,
absolutely.
and at the Art of Classic, they did a hybrid. Check this out. WCAF stick fighting with kicks. And the kicks were full contact. And we've gone down there. We had a blast with it. It was different. And the only problem I have is that the stick doesn't have the ability to knock you down. Whereas, I can kick you and just drop you with one kick. So there is a disconnect between the weapon that would kill you, can't hurt you, but my sidekick could drop you. And so I do.
Right.
The only thing that's good, the only thing that's real is real. But if we're going to do something for a sport to promote, I really like the idea of the padded point style or blade style to get the movement going. But the thing is, I look at if the sport becomes popular, it can attract more people into what we're doing. And if we can get in front of, like I said, if we can get it to the Olympics, I think that'd be huge. And I don't necessarily believe that it will do it in our lifetime. But, my mindset is that my generation should be planting trees for that the next generation will see, and I may never see, and I'll never get the shade from these trees.
Right.
But future generations will. So if like a friend of mine who's no longer with us, Roland Dantes, because of his work, the Arnice bill came through. He wasn't the guy who got it across the goal line, but the stuff he did helped get us in that direction. And it would have been nice that if he could have seen that before he passed. But I know that there's no question in my mind that his work helped get us to there.
Right.
So, okay, here we go. One of the coolest things Tuhon Jesse does with kids and adult students at North Shore Academy of Martial Arts, hashtag, or actually, is that he not only builds FMA skills, but he also builds his students' confidence and enforces positive mental attitude. And that's what we should be doing as martial artists. So I had this thing I said, and people, one particular person said he found it offensive, and I really didn't care because they weren't listening to what I was saying. I said, we got to get the F out of FMA. And it's not, and this is about today's show. Someone told me that you can't have a Filipino martial arts school because it's Filipino. And I'm like, really? We deserve to be at the big kids table. Matter of fact, I mean, we have such a rich system. I go Taekwondo. I mean, that's vanilla. That's not even French vanilla. That's the vanilla of the martial arts world, and they're one of the most dominant forces out there. And you're saying that us, with all this rich martial technique, we don't deserve to be at that table? That's bullshit. And if you're sitting there saying, because we're Filipino martial artists, it's the Filipino portion is why we can't get to that table. First of all, get the F out. Take it off there. We are martial artists first and foremost, teaching Filipino combatives. So I don't sterilize my martial arts. But when I'm teaching this, I'm a martial artist first and foremost. So when someone comes through the door, you will see I've got a picture or a graphic of Lapu Lapu. I've got the Filipino flag here and there. I've got the systems listed on the door. But the thing, and even on my website, where the area's leading school for Filipino martial arts, it's very subtle. It's there. But I don't try. If I was sit there and said I have an Arnis school, no one would know what the hell an Arnis school is. It's Horizon Martial Arts. And my sign says karate, because when I first started teaching, everyone would call it karate back in the day. And it's less letters, bigger font. People say, why don't you put martial arts there? Because it's a smaller sign, smaller letters. People can't see it. And people understand it. And my teacher Remy used to call it Filipino karate, just to get it was the branding thing. But we didn't lie to anybody. I mean, but what do? We do forms. We do katas. Okay. Just like karate does. We do self-defense and one-steps, just like karate does. But we also do so much more. We punch, kick, lock, throw, weapons, this, that, and the other thing. But when I said this, people hear the knee-jerk reaction, thinking what I'm trying to do is take all the Filipino out. And it's like, no. Well, you morons keep saying we can't have a full-time school because we are Filipino martial artists. And it goes back to, if you've ever watched I'm an old-time wrestling fan because our town was big into that. The WWF was arguing with the World Wildlife Federation. So McMahon finally gave up and said, all right, we're going to go WWE. And his whole campaign was get the F out of the WWF. And he shaved the letters off and did all this stuff. So like, oh, this is the hook. This is the clickbait title to get everybody to listen. Of course, then some people got so twisted on what I said, they didn't listen. And like, well, if you don't like what I say, maybe you should ask me what I mean first before you judge. But of course, it was like, well, we had Francis on, Big Boy Eskrima, and he's going off. I'm like, Francis, what? That's not what I'm saying. Well, what are you saying? This is what I'm saying. Oh, okay, now I get it. But there's something I don't appreciate. The first thing I'll do is say, hey, what do you mean by that? Because I want to make sure. If I think I'm offended, I want to make sure I am. And it could be that I just heard you wrong or you misspoke. And, so that's why I do, that's why I went back. Okay. Boom. Okay, that's it. Okay, good. I just said that. People are messaging me in about the show, so I want to make sure everything's getting all the right answers there. Okay. So here's Mark. What are some of the challenges you've had doing this, or like how much for you? Because you're in LA.
Mm-hmm.
What percentage? I don't want to ask too nosy. How? No. Okay, so your income, because my income is all martial arts derived.
Yes.
How much? And how much is that is working in the movie industry versus your teaching?
Very, very low. Mostly it's teaching.
Okay, great. So my question then is,
projects will come up, and then there's a windfall of money from a project, but I don't. That's just extra to me. I don't depend on it. Okay. So teaching is my income. Yeah.
So what's been your biggest challenge, you think? And then as you're going through, as you're going through your teaching, like what do you think has been your biggest challenge as a whole?
Well, as a whole is the part of the question that matters. I think the biggest challenge, and we're sort of walking around it, is that the audience has no idea what we're doing. You know, there's a great story about Ed Parker doing a demonstration here at the Los Angeles Athletic Club. This is back in the 50s and early 60s, and he invites Elvis to come and watch his demonstration, and he does a typical Ed Parker demonstration and does all the pizzazz and looks great. And he asks Elvis afterward, "What do you think?" And he goes, "Oh, it was great. I really got a lot from it, but I don't know that the rest of the people got very much from it." And he said, "Just a word of advice or a phrase of advice: first entertain, then educate." So oftentimes when people are trying to get this completely different thing out there, which, I mean, Remy using Filipino karate, he's trying to cross that bridge by using something that's familiar to the audience. I think most people would probably think negatively of that term now because of the UFC and so forth. So you don't really want to add karate to things. I've heard people call it Filipino mixed martial arts. We've been struggling with that for years. We hybrid martial arts. We always trying to figure out some other way to refer to it. I actually just referred to it as martial art for a long time and just didn't say anything else, where it came from or anything else. Because again, once again, I've fenced for years and years, decades, and all the principles in fencing are the same as they are in Filipino martial arts. The principle is principle. So it's really getting across that bridge and saying, look at this art and understand why it's valuable to you. Because that's how you get somebody to join, is you get them to understand why you need air conditioning in your car. I'm going to sell you this air conditioning. And if they don't understand the benefit, then they're not going to pay the extra for it. So I'll oftentimes say that you've heard the Gracie thing where 90% of fights or most fights end up on the ground. I'll turn around and say something similar, which is that most people are murdered with a weapon. So if we're trying to learn how to defend ourselves and our martial art either includes no weapons at all or includes fanciful weapons that are only form oriented, how are you learning to defend against the hammer when the guy's trying to kill you? So we're going to teach you how to deal with that kind of a situation. And then we'll come back from that and give you differing levels of escalation or de-escalation so that you can handle all kinds of situations. But we need to be able to handle that lethal force situation. And that is, I think, where Filipino martial arts really excels. So the notion of a machete or a framing hammer coming at us, she seems kind of normal in the Filipino martial arts. So it's not going to be the X block. It's not going to be any of that. So.
Right.
So speaking of that comment, let me, for those who are listening, the Gracies actually were misquoting a FBI study. The FBI study was done on the cuffing position of the LAPD. So 90% of the cuffing positions were from the ground, which didn't mean that someone took them to the ground. It could have easily been at gunpoint, hitting with a baton, spraying with an asp. More recently, so one of my guys in air marshal gets stats. So they're saying, I just rather round up to make numbers easy. Only a third of all encounters go to the ground. But a third of all, and that doesn't mean getting knocked out. That means it actually grappling to the ground. But another stat was a third of all attacks involve a weapon. And in some regions that was higher than it was approaching 60%, but we're talking the national average, which means 2/3 of the time you're going to be on your fight. So having some kind of striking program is the way to go. And you know what? Our sticks are striking program as well. But it just shows you that even with a third, if a third is going to the ground, you need to have a game for that ground. Now, I will say, well, I train with Dr. G, and his thing is before you learn ground techniques, learn how to do your techniques from the ground. So do all your punching, kicking, locking, everything you already do it standing, sitting, kneeling, laying down before you go down that field of study. But that, a lot of people would, I did like the jiu-jitsu guys that would say, okay, now I know everyone says this, but 100% of these fights started standing up. So I at least gave those guys in the BJJ community that were trying to be less offensive and stuff. But it was a stat. They had it. It was taken out of context. Whether it was done intentionally or not, don't know. But if I had that stat working for me, I would have done the same thing.
Sure,
Um,
sure.
so I don't blame them, and actually, and it's funny. So I work with some people and I actually have rubber hammers made for me in my school, screwdrivers, stuff of that nature. I've got 3D printed, with my co-host who's, he's recently, he started the retiring process from his government job. So Ty is not going to be here very often during this process. He's 3D printed me, a dozen beer bottles so we can practice that kind of attacks and stuff. And a lot of times say, hey, get your training knife. We'll pretend it's this. Yeah, but you know what? Sooner or later, someone's going to walk in and see you grabbing a knife by the handle and hitting someone. Like, that's not, what are they doing? I'm like, so everything gets taken out of context. So that's why I have as many different tools. So there's less chance of that misinterpretation.
Sure. Yeah.
Tuhon Jesse, what do you think your biggest challenge has been? Through the years.
Oh gosh.
And your partners don't count.
I think you guys nailed it. Like trying to, in my case, trying to tell everybody what I do, what I can show you, right? The marketing part, because if they don't know what you do, what you offer, then why would they come see you, or why would they even come train with you? So it's kind of different for me because I think that I'm coming into FMA later, where there's a lot of movies out there that kind of showcase the FMA. So I'm kind of in that kind of generation where, yeah, you saw that movie and they did, they were trained by, or they did this, or, they use sticks and so forth. So that helps us a little bit. But for me personally, my challenge was to try to, tell people what I can do, what I can show them, what's my background, frankly, uh, when people come into North Shore Martial Arts Academy and they see, the youth program, the JKD, the Eskrima, Arnis, and then there's Tuhon Jesse on the side, and they're like, what's he do? Right. So the biggest challenge was trying to show people what I do, what I can offer, and so forth. And that kind of led me to the different things that I do, and bringing in unique programs into the school, the stick fighting Olympiads, the archery. I do gun training as well. I do have a, military law enforcement background, so that kind of enhances getting myself out there a little bit. I do work at a gun range, and I do teach kids at the gun range. So um, it, that's the biggest challenge, I think, for me, is to getting out there and letting people know what I can offer. And so that's kind of drives the school on how to promote their instructors and so forth. So we're doing a big overhaul now at the school to try and showcase our instructors, their background, their abilities to teach, and what they offer and so forth. So it's been one of the biggest challenge for me.
So on that note about the firearms, I want to just bring something up. So before someone says anything, I'm a conditional second amender.
Okay.
I think we need some. I think we need some common sense firearm rules out there. It was different. Like my father was a trooper. I started shooting when I was 5. I hit the target, I think, when I was 8. Could always hit the ground, so it was 100% all the time. But the thing is that the gun cabinet in our house was wide open. But my father taught me good gun safety from day one. And here's the thing: he was up in Syracuse. He had 100 acres of property. We needed to know how to use the firearms to protect the livestock against predators. And we needed to know and then we never had to do this, but we need to know how to use the firearms in case disgruntled customers of the New York State Police came looking for him. Someone he pulled over, arrested, came looking for him. They might try to go through us. So I am not trying to say anything, but like the stupid, and I'm going to go political right now. Here we go. Here's my politics. I'm not taking all these people going after people who own Tesla cars, burning down the dealerships, going after the cars. That's not Elon Musk. You know, going after I don't have a Tesla, by the way. But if I had a Tesla, why is destroying my car getting an Elon? You know, it means nothing. But the thing here is, we see this shit happen all the time. Someone's trying to make a point, and people get caught in the crossfire one way or another. So I learned at a very young age how to deal with firearms. I was taught it. I mean, like I said, open gun case. It was actually, the door was shut. It was a wooden door with those fake. It was those plastic windows.
Yeah,
that looked like cut glass. It was like, that was gone. I could, I had a bolt action 22 long. I could grab that anytime. We had M1 in there. I had multiple shotguns. We probably had 15 guns I had access to, including pistols that were in there. And I never once thought about touching them because I was taught good gun safety. The high school that I went to didn't have it at my age, so I graduated in 83. There is the remnants of a rifle range in the basement of our high school, because at one time you would see people on their bicycles bicycling to school with a rifle on their back because there was a gun range and a gun team. So if anyone tries to, in case people start bipping off about this portion, I think it's great that Tuhon is teaching kids, because if they're taught proper gun safety, they will not have accidents. And when we look at all the crimes that have been committed, it's usually the illegally gained firearms. Oh no, someone legal bought it in the family. Yeah, but somebody else took it, and that's illegal. People who follow the rules, but that's me on my soapbox. I am sorry. Like I said, I will not. We can't have the Second Amendment discussion. I'm for it. I do think that it needs to be changed, because people are dumb these days. And if we said 21 for certain things and stuff like that, I'm all for it. I also think if we're talking about that, maybe the driver's license should be older, and maybe even the right to vote, because these kids don't know what they're doing out there. But that's a whole nother topic, and it's not what this show is about today.
yeah.
I'm sorry. I went down the rabbit hole. I had to go see. Okay, here we go. Biggest challenge for us students, even at a part-time school, is retention. There we go. We offer Pambuan Arnis, Shotokan Karate, Aikido, China, Combat Guntao, and Filipino boxing. Who's this? Is this one of your guys?
No, he's actually one of Amaguru Rafi Pambuan's guys. Trains with
Where's
him. I think
is he in Florida?
Tennessee.
Okay, Tennessee. Okay. If we didn't offer the multiple styles, we still wouldn't be open. Again, this is around my real full-time job. Okay. Not to mention competing with the MMA groups. So yeah, the thing is, the MMA groups, usually kids don't do it. And a lot of people, they don't get past their first class, but that's another topic. Let's see.
There's an interesting comment on there that I just saw there, Datu. They said we've done better with retention when we simplified our offerings.
Yep. So that's Jackie. She runs an Arnie school in Kansas City. So what did you okay, so Jackie, since we're talking about that, what do you mean by simplifying your offerings now? Because I got some comments here and there, stuff like that. Very clear in what we offer and what we do. Okay, in what way? Let me see what Jeremiah. Never keep going.
Gun safety.
Drop karate altogether. Oh wait, no, okay. You had a karate program in there at one time, if I'm not mistaken. Is that what you're talking about?
I see.
The main curriculum. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't offer programs anymore that I can't or don't run. We were the first to offer Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in Buffalo. Because a guy, it's funny because you sit there, wait a minute, aren't you the guy that picks on BJJ? Of course I do. Well, not BJJ. I pick on the trolls because they're so easy. But I had other people running it for me. So it was a BJJ instructor was training with me in Arnice. So I said, hey, if you want to stick around and teach your BJJ, he was from Canada because we're on the border. And then I had other people teach the class during the week. And a lot of people didn't know how to teach. And it wasn't conducive. It was an enrichment program. Unfortunately, I would have had to take point of it to have it done right. And from now, what I generally don't do is offer any programs in the club that I'm not a part of. I need to, if I have someone else teaching it, that's fine, but I need to be in charge of it, directing it. I need to be able to take it over in case there's a problem with the instructor. Like, hey, he's sick, he's out of town for a couple of weeks or a month or whatever, or maybe he just moves. And that was the problem with our grappling program. Too many different things were going on. And so, I've got a Shorinji Kempo. Well, actually, I had a Shorinji Kempo in my school because this was a guy who was my mentor growing up. And he eventually closed his school, but he wanted to keep training. I gave him the keys to my place. He makes a donation. He teaches twice, or he was teaching twice a week. But I have nothing to do with that. I don't take care of the money with that. He's had he had a procedure, and we're waiting to see if he's coming back or not. But but besides that, any other program, if I'm not teaching it, it's not offered because, I'm the head of the school. And if I can't mentor it, things go sideways. Yep. Jackie says we did. As in we did have karate, and exactly we offer praise studies. Period. Yep. I mean, that's what I've always done. Like I said, I lead with my Praces program. Okay, and of course, when there's certain words dropped in the messages, you will get an automated thing. So don't put in disarm, or you get an offer for my new disarm videos. No, literally, it pop. There's a few keywords. So this is going through Facebook. We have as well as YouTube. So there's some keywords that if they pop up in the text, you will get sent an invitation to be part of something. So sorry, but not sorry. So if you have the opportunity and you want to sign up for one of my programs, there you go. Just FYI. There's all of a sudden in the chart, it goes, hey, look, sent you a message. Take a look. It's like, I didn't send anything. That was automated. Sorry. So, yeah. I mean, Mark, does anyone teach for you?
No. Unless I go and teach a seminar, I'll put a senior student to task, but other than that, no.
So the norm. Okay, so obviously there's going to be exceptions. And guys, listen, I'm all about having junior instructors come up and getting some time teaching. And even what I'll do is I'll have them teach on the floor, and I'll sit there and watch them. And then if they I tell everyone ahead of time, you do something wrong, I'm going to correct it right away. Now I might let's wait to see if you can teach your way out of it. But it might be like, listen, I don't want the material going out wrong, but I need to watch what's going on. And sometimes come here. What did you just do? Yeah, no, go fix that. Okay. Because one of my concerns is the art dies with me.
Yes.
So I'm concerned about the legacy of what we're doing. Now, if people here don't care about whether the art continues forward, then don't worry about it. But for me, I'm worrying about future generations. My goal, as I said this weekend at the training camp I was teaching in Jacksonville, was I want to become obsolete. I want you to not need me to come to a floor. I want you to have me down because you enjoy having me teach, not because you need me for the material, because I've taught you well enough that you're self-sufficient and I'm no longer there. I think a person who's done a really good job of that, Tuhon Gahe. He could stop today. Mikita Tertiary is moving forward.
Yes, sir.
Now, I don't want to see that day because that's not what I'm saying. but I
Right.
think he's done a very good job. And there's other organizations out there. Mikita Tertiary is going to last at least a generation after him. I think several generations. I think it's going to keep going. I don't think it's going to stop. But who knows? But I'm look at some of the branches. I don't see some of the groups. I think it ends with the top guys. I think. But I look at Jared Wahongi's group and all the people that are working with Grant Tuhon. There's plenty of groups out there, but I think some of them there's not enough young blood to keep it going. But that's not ever. Some people don't care. They I got people coming to school. They're like, Tim, I love coming here. I really don't care about future generations. But you know what? If it makes for a better class, I'll help out wherever you need me to. Great. But they're vested differently than I am. Okay, let's see here. I only teach modernities, which is what I offer. Yeah, one of our guys. Tim, do you still have teachers, mentors? So, yeah, mentors more than anything else. I don't like not being a student. So I have my BJJ coach, Coach Jerry. I show him Arnis. He shows me BJJ. I'm working for my purple belt. Who knows how long that's going to take? It took me 30 years to become a blue belt because I didn't care. It was just about getting my ground combatives for the street better, and it didn't have to coincide with a belt. I really didn't give a shit. Like my Balintwalk, there is no rank certification in Balintwalk, the original system. My teacher didn't do anything. Now, before he passed away, he did do a lineage diploma, so he knew who the actual students of his was. But at the end of the day, and this is the guy that used to teach for Anshan, he did it the way Anshan did, and you're either a student or a teacher. End of story. Now, as a professional martial artist, if you can get certification, I want it, because if I'm going to teach it, I want to have the credentials to back me up. But that being said, I went to Detroit on a regular basis, or every month. It was 9 hours round trip. I'd drive round trip every day I went there. Go train at his house, come back home, and it was my Zen time to think about what we worked. I spent a lot of money doing all that. It was worth everything without the certificates. And then when I got the lineage certificate, it was like, okay, that's all I needed. That was just something that meant very special to me. But at the end of the day, that certificate doesn't mean shit. It's all about what I can do. Mm-hmm. Just like a black belt. It's the best, and it's the worst thing in the world. It means everything and nothing. The black belt means a lot to me because it means to me, it shows me what I've done to get there. But at the end of the day, in the real world, it means absolutely jack, because it doesn't. Still got to pay the same thing for a donut and a cup of coffee as everyone else. So let me see. Mike Tyson can help get you around the trigger words. Okay, all right. Oh, here we go. Boom, Brian. Exactly. What do you blend? I don't blend anything. I teach my system. I have too much respect, especially for the families of our guru. Since I have been there with them for 20 years, I teach nearly all my classes unless I have to go out. Great. Then I turn it over to guru, other guru. Okay, that's cool. Cool, thanks. Okay. Yeah. Actually, that way. I gotta go this way. I gotta remember which way that's pointing here, because this is my right. My right is my left. I'm pointing to my left, and that should be Jesse, but whatever. So, let's see. Do you have people teaching for you? Well, obviously you mentioned it already.
I do actually. I have seasoned students that, as you know, I do a lot of seminars and a lot of events throughout the country, right? So when I can't be in the school teaching, I have some of my senior students, seasoned students, to run the class and teach. But that also helps me kind of promote what we do, right? I do all these events throughout the country. As you've seen, we've done our Pagtitipon events in many different states. Orlando, we do in Florida, we do in Maryland. We do here in Illinois. We're going to do it in Colorado, so I can't be at the school all the time. And then I do my own seminars throughout the country as well. So Lately, I've focused on staying in the school because we have new programs we're trying to bring together. Trying to get our programs more defined for the family, especially the youth programs where they're get introduction to the FMA, and then um, slowly build upon that and draw them to the JKD Kali programs that we have, and also the Pikiti Tarsha Kali programs that we have. But I've had my most senior student has been with me for about 10 years. And I have a couple of them actually that take turns when I'm not at the school. And I also run my Combat Warrior Academy classes, which is in northern Wisconsin, or we go out in the woods for a little while and play with sticks and make fire and find water and stuff like that. So I'm not always at the school. I'm pretty busy.
I like fire.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Let's see. How about that? All right. I'm not good at Tagalog, so I'll have to look at that up later. So I did put up your event here. So this is how do you pronounce that again?
Thank you. Pagtitipon.
Yeah, what he just said. It's the same weekend as my anniversary camp, and
I know. I saw that. I'm so disappointed. I wanted to
but if you're
celebrate with you.
In Gotha, Florida, on May 6th or 17th and 18th, you got Amaguru Rafi, GM Bruce, Tuhon Sadiq, and Tuhon Jesse. So it's a very cool lineup. But if you're also around my area, I've got a interesting lineup coming up for. It's the same weekend. It's our 25th anniversary of the organization.
Yeah.
As well as Ty Botting and myself celebrating our 60th birthdays together. So, speaking about future generations, Mark, what? So, do you have an instructor training program?
Not in the way that you're describing. Not as I can sign up for the instructor training program.
No. I mean, just in general, do you are you grooming people for the next generation?
Yes. I think instructors kind of emerge. That's not something that I certainly didn't aspire to when I was a kid, but it just became something that I was passionate about. So the students who show themselves to have not just the capability, I'm really adamant about teachers not being parrots. I don't want them just parroting what I teach. So I want them to find their own voice. I want them to have their own point of view. I certainly want them to convey the material correctly. But I'm also open to them having their own additions and innovations to those techniques. It is an art form after all. So yes, I do have instructor programs. I don't actually certify people. And I just always have found that kind of repulsive. And I've had too many people walk into my school with instructor certification who couldn't teach my beginners. So I don't certify them, but they will become known as somebody who knows how to teach and was a student of mine, and that's enough. So
cool. And here's one more. Because
thank you.
Rocky Mountain one. Oh yeah, so
yeah, but, that one's a 3-day event, and it's going to be hosted by Master Kyle and Master Susie from Success Martial Arts in Colorado. So,
I don't see my photo there. What the hell's going on?
Well, we are still making your flyer there, Datu Tim. We are still making your flyer. So after you're done celebrating your birthday, I'm gonna hit you up.
But listen, like for what I like to do is if you guys are available for the next 2 weeks individually, like Mark, if you're available next weekend, I'd love to do a feature on you, and then the next Monday, then the Monday after that, Jesse, or if it works better the other way around, because I would like to do a deep dive. I don't want to talk about the schools. I want to talk about the people, because like I said, Mark, you were like this mystery man I mean, no. Listen, no. So there's a whole bunch of people that us East Coasters don't know. Your name pops up, but none of us know who you are. But we know you're somebody to know, And Tuhon Jesse, the same thing in the Chicago area. Like, you've got the East Coast, you got this, you got Central, you got the left. I mean, the West Coast, the left. But the thing is, social media has done a great job by pulling us together. I also think social media has done a great job of pushing us away from each other. But I mean, now, I mean, listen, growing up, okay, so the three of us are old enough to remember how we found out about martial arts events. We looked them up in Black Belt magazine back in the day.
Yeah.
There was no social media. I mean, my phone was dial up. I remember when cable came about. I remember when the internet came about. I remember when MTV was about music. But the thing here is things have changed, and I think now, especially so, my social media company's done a great job of getting the word out, and a lot of stuff. At least the views here. This show is going to have 2,000-3,000 views by the time as time goes on. Probably, usually my shows average about 2,500 views by the time the week's over. So before the social media, we didn't have that kind. Now YouTube, not so much, because YouTube is just a bear. It's so hard to get things out there. But a lot of the topics I addressed when I was first doing this, I'm bringing them back up because now we can get the word out to as many people as possible. And this is FMA Talk. Is it modernity centric? Hell yeah. But like I've always done, I've always promoted other martial arts out there. This is all. I mean, so if for those who remember discussion groups, there was a thing called Martial Talk. I was the co-founder of that, and we spun it off. And FMA Talk was the other one. So this is it was a V Bolton group that we used to talk about. And I always had to shut it down because bikini groups couldn't play well with other back then. COVID sort of people have got it out of their systems. They're playing well. Actually, you're seeing people at seminars. I mean, you got Bill McGrath over at Jerry Wahongi's group doing stuff. I mean, you didn't see that back in the day. Now everyone's playing nicer.
Nicer.
But nicer. So what are we?
Well, that's kind of the theme of Datu Tim Hartman, Datu, is to bring the different instructors together and share, their arts, their philosophy, their ability to teach, right? So I kind of wanted to bring that into the forefront and kind of, maybe everybody else can kind of want to do something like that. But you're right. I've seen so many people doing stuff together. Kali Revolution, where you had three different folks come together: Doug Mercaida, Jared Wahongi, Tuhon Radio now, though. They're doing stuff together. And I think that's what FMA needs, is people coming together more so, right?
I think during COVID, a lot of people, the boats got lashed together. We're all in the same storm. We're in different ships, different boats. And I think we all pulled together. But I think some of the things where people were looking to scuttle each other as they went down, but that's just me. I think we've gotten past a lot of that. I think there's been a little rough times, ups and downs, but I think for the most part, people have gotten to know each other, and people have found out the people they want to hang out with and the people they don't want to hang out with. But I mean, with this platform, I definitely want to use this to share knowledge, because the good thing is, once this information up, it doesn't go away. And a lot of things, the problem is our culture has been very folklore-esque. We tell each other, but what kind of documentation, so Tuhon Jesse, FYI, we're working on a true Smoky Mountain gathering in September. Tentatively push on request. Okay, cool. That's excellent. And then he said, awesome. I know that guy.
Hey, Datu, can I just mention one thing?
You can call me Tim, by the way.
Oh, yes, sir, Tim. So in my academy, in Combat Warrior Academy, I kind of drew this from the military experience that I have. I actually have a instructor training course where I teach people how to teach. I truly believe the people that are teaching martial arts need to learn how to teach. and you can't be a teacher without being a leader. So the Leadership Academy goes along with the instructor school, and you can't be a mentor if you don't know how to teach and lead. So that's kind of like the triangle that I'm trying to put together. What bring the new generation to the forefront, right? Creating leaders, right? So we're learning to teach, but we also teach to learn. That's kind of like a saying in the PTK world, the Grand Tuhon kind of ingrained that in some of the instructors out there. So,
okay, so let me see here. We've been doing this for about an hour and a half, and I know sooner or later we're going to lose a bunch of people. So, and the topic we can go real deep on, but there's only so much people want to listen. I mean, the people got stuck looking at my face. They're like, "Can I just block that out?" But learn to teach, teach to learn, teach to learn. There we go. All right. There we go. Tim Dobson. Okay, yeah. So, trying to think of the best question, and actually, anyone else got a question out there as we're starting to wrap this up? So, Jesse, does your school use a CRM? Okay, let me say, okay, let me rephrase that. What does your school use software? So for CRM, customer management relationship, that's the software that you use. How do does everyone take care of their own business, or does it all go through Guru Mark and he takes care of all that? How does that?
So I was gonna answer that. I knew exactly what you were asking. And in fact, I just had a good conversation with our business manager. So we actually have a business manager that runs all things business for North Shore Martial Arts School. So he's looking into several different programs, and then he's got some great ideas that he actually is texting me right now saying, say this, say that, about our programs. But we do use software. We're transitioning to a new website. We're restructuring how we deliver information to our parents and our potential students as well. That's one of the reasons why we're increasing our seminars in the school. We were bringing GM Bobby Tabawada in July. We were bringing Tuhon Radio Naldo in October. We're doing all the Pagtitipons there. We're doing our tournaments because we want to really just expand our visibility out into the community and draw out the other schools around us to come take a look and see what we're offering. But yes, we do use software. Currently, we're in a transition to which one we're going to use, though, and we're recreating our website. So it'll be a lot easier. Point and click. You sign up for a class, clear schedule. We have free trial classes for new students or potential students and so forth. And we're going to be diving into the women's self-defense stuff. We have one now. We're going to revamp it a little bit and offer it to the community. I'm in the process of creating a class and donate it to a specific group come this summer. So ways to engage the community and so forth. So, but yes, we do use software.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, personally, I'm using Spark at the moment.
Yep.
As far as my website, I'm using Market Muscle. I like Spark. They do have an app, which I can put some content in there. I haven't used the app. I've been using Spark for years, but I haven't. But I tell you, since being able to send out emails and texts to everybody has made a huge difference in stuff. Mark, do you use any kind of software, or how do you communicate with your people?
Well, you mentioned earlier having an instructor program. My senior student, who's the sergeant at arms in the school, he essentially takes care of all the communication with the students.
Okay.
So there's a group chat that he reaches out if there's any issues with scheduling, although there rarely is, or if the students want to get together, which I encourage, but I don't want to be the one who's the droning adult saying you should go out and practice. So they're all kind of inspiring and motivating each other, which is terrific. I use an analogy all the time of the wheel when it comes to teaching, that the teacher is the hub of the wheel, the students are the individual spokes, and the interconnectedness of the students is what makes the school mobile and moving and progressing. So the students working together to enhance our own development and train together and get better. I mean, when we think about when we were young martial artists, I don't really think about the teachers, to be honest with you, because I spent innumerable hours with my fellow students practicing what we were learning in class. So the time spent learning in the class was infinitesimal compared to the time spent practicing. So I have endless memories of training in parks and training in backyards and just working out all the time. So I encourage my students to do the same.
Okay, cool. All right. Actually, I've got a sick dog here, so let me throw this one up and I'll be right back. But okay, so I was wondering, considering all your schools have been around for a while, how do you keep the new generation that is very, very technology oriented and not so much face to face? I've been seeing new young adults and kids with short attention span. How do you utilize technology, take advantage of this? I'll let you guys take turns between the two of you. I just got to make sure that this dog is doing okay. It's a 9.5-year-old Rottweiler, and I'm got.
You want to take it first, Jesse?
Yeah, sure. I like what Datu Tim is doing. His TikTok, his videos are great, and all my kids are on TikTok, and they see this, and they that's how they get the information, or they get drawn into it. Social media, Instagram, and so forth. I think is all our kids are into that. They're always on Instagram. Not so much Facebook, right? Because that's the old folks' social media, right? But TikTok, they're all over TikTok, and Tim's TikTok profile, I think, is wonderful. It's eye catching. It grabs your attention and has a lot of good information. So that's one way. The other way is the first thing that most people go to when they want to find out about you is Google, and your website's got to be up to date and has to be modern and not old school where you have to scroll through like 5 million scrolls before you get to the proper information. It's a simple point and click and so forth. So, but you're right, the attention span, they want the information quickly, short. And so YouTube, it's not the 3-hour videos anymore. It's the 30-second shorts that people are using. So that's some strategies that are being used out there. That's what we use, right? So as you guys know, I'm on TikTok, but not as heavy as Tim is. His TikTok is pretty cool. Mine's not so much.
Well, I was
like
listening. How about you?
Tim sat down. I like how you waited until you sat down to say that your TikTok was pretty cool.
Yeah, well, I was waiting. I'm like, okay.
Wait, I was waiting. I was drawing it out until he sat down.
Not my TikTok. It's all 4 platforms of the same video. So I've got Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. So when I do content, I just drop all 4. Actually, I don't. I have a company that takes care of this for me.
Right.
Which has been a game changer on many levels, but that's another story. So what technology are you utilizing? Or you've got your website?
I've got the website. I've got Instagram, Facebook, a little bit of. I don't really put anything on Facebook anymore. I usually drop stuff onto Instagram. But I hate the term old school because it ends up getting overused all the time. So, but really, I'm old school. When a student comes in, especially a younger student, I mean, it's even written on the wall in the training room or the changing room, which is that every person here comes to be has come here or entered into this special place as a school because they want to be a better version of themselves. So I really want people to kind of maintain that because it's really easy, and especially in the younger culture, to kind of put everything down and be sarcastic and poo-poo those kind of aspirations in people. But I think every single person in the school shares that aspiration, even if they may not want to state it. So I, as a teacher, really take it as a mandate that I'm going to challenge people on those aspirations. So if they come in and they're overweight and they let me know that they don't want to be overweight, well, I make a point of being there very directly and confrontationally in that way, because I say you may learn how to defend yourself with a stick, but that spare tire is going to kill you. So let's put some focus on that so that we can actually live a fulfilling life rather than die early. So I mean that can be applied in so many different ways, but it's really about understanding what we're all there for in the first place. The art is certainly the thing that brings us there. It's the thing that keeps us together. It's the thing that gives us a focus, but we gain so much more from it than just the functional application of an art in a violent situation, which if we have really trained correctly, we should never have to have, because we will have avoided it, because we'll have recognized the circumstance. So that would be the best of that situation. But so to me, it's really about leading the student. First of all, I consider myself an example. I mean, by the way, you mentioned that your birthday's next week. My birthday's tomorrow.
Oh, happy birthday.
So I'll be
Happy
65
birthday.
tomorrow.
Are you how old?
65.
Wow.
65.
65.
You're doing good.
Thank you, sir. So, but I really, and I don't say this to my students, but this is a podcast and we're talking about it. I really am adamant that a teacher should be an example. So I try to present myself in a way that I want my students to present themselves. I don't ask my students to do anything that I am not doing. It's just, I can go out in any class, and I think this is fundamental for teachers. The certification is great if people want to get it, but as you said, it's like an X-ray. It's a snapshot in time. It's not something that means anything a week from now. It was just that moment when you got that certificate. So to me, it's, can you execute your art effectively at a high level? Can you answer questions about details and then answer questions about those details and then answer questions about those details? Can you go almost infinitely into the depth of your art? Because if you can't, you're a beginning instructor or a dilettante. You're not a true teacher in my word. So and then it's speak truthfully, know where your limitations are. Don't fill in the blanks with bullshit. If you don't know, tell a student you don't know and invite them to join you on a journey to find out. Don't pretend that you know. So many teachers are so desperate to be seen as the end all be all for their students that they'll be dishonest in teaching them. And I take great issue with that, especially in the Filipino martial arts. So as Tim has been saying, there's such a rich tapestry to this art, and we owe it to the people that we studied from and the people who died to create this art. We owe it to give it to the next generation and the generations after that in the purest and most functionally effective way that we possibly can. So I kind of hold that bar very high in my class and ask the students to hold that bar for themselves as high.
Okay, as I send those messages out. Well, first of all, Anna says happy birthday as well.
Thank you.
And cool. So yeah, you know what? And getting, oh, here we go. There is so much more to learn. That's exactly right. You know, as far as this goes, you know, when we're talking about stuff, technology, you know what? When you create a proper culture in your club, by leading by example, stuff like that, word of mouth is still the best. It is always the best.
Number one, absolutely.
Referral programs, if you have them set up, they're always that helps. Asking for a referral, just in general. I mean, you know, and it's you know, the thing here is that you don't want to hound your people, but I mean, there are people thinking about going back to direct mailers, back the old school, because things have changed the way they're doing things. So, but that's another topic. You could use all this type of technology, but also you can get lost in it as well, you know. And so I have a social media company. I'm promoting me as a person versus my school, and my school has gotten benefit from that, which is good. But we're very upfront. It's me, and promoting because of my seminars and other instructor programs and the camps and all that other fun stuff. But as much as that's done, it is separate from my school. Like I said, I've brought people into my school, and my students do think it's cool. You know, because like, oh my God, Datu's on, he's on TikTok. Ah, I'm like, okay. You know, it's not a big deal, but you know how some people, you know, they're like, wow, that's awesome. And because of that, I was able to meet some people like Sam Alvey, the karate combat heavyweight champion. He was busting my chops, busting somebody else's chops, and we got to know each other. And he came to Buffalo for a seminar. You know, it was great. It was like, hey, this is, you know, so I make connections and do stuff of that nature. But ultimately, the word of mouth and face-to-face connections are what go. Now, I use the other technology to communicate with our students and our parents, because a lot of times you get one parent dropping off and another one picking up, or people are, you know, I don't, you know, the penalty for showing up to class late, you miss out on part of the class. I would rather have someone come in halfway through the class than not at all. Because you know, I am not going to ask people to change their work habits. They're providing for their families. They're dropping kids off. They're doing all these things. And if someone comes in and say, I'm going to be 15 minutes late every day, I get that. But you still want to train with me? Sure. Okay. Then I expect that I respect that dedication, that they want to be there. And I understand that they have schedule restrictions. And I'm talking about group classes. Obviously, privates are a different story. So, you know, we got to work with our people one way or another. And that personal connection, that culture that you start in your school is invaluable. You can't put a price on that. And if you put the right cultures in place, the technologies will enhance, but they're not necessarily a necessity. But it does make things work out a lot better, because I teach kids and one parent drops off and another one picks up at times. There's a lot of miscommunication, or if it's, I've got people who are joint custody, because, you know, so one parent knows something and the other one doesn't. Well, now we've got both. We send out an email or a text message. They both get it. So everyone's on the same page. So definitely technology is an augmentation of what we're doing, but it still boils down to basics. Be out there, talk to your people. Like, you know, Tuhon Jesse was talking about his one student. Was it Alex you said his name was? Your kid that's teaching on the floor, not kid, the 30-year-old. Who's the guy that you think was a great teacher out there?
Sensei Alex. He's like late 30s.
Alex. Okay. So Alex is out there. He's talking to the parents as well. He's running the classes, that engagement, that personal touch. Technology will never, ever, ever, although ChatGTP is getting pretty close, but it's still different than the personal face-to-face touch, fist bumping people, you know, fist bump, handshake, high five, all these things. I'm out in stores. People give me service of, you know, they did a great job. I'm shaking hands still. Oh, and they're like, thank you, man, thanks a lot. That personal touch goes a long way, and you do that in your school and have that culture, and that's going to help you so much. I learned about Tuhon Jesse from his seminars. Real world interactions does make the difference. Yes.
You know, you mentioned about, you asked me about kids. I don't teach kids, but frequently people will call, because my number is out there and my name is somewhat known. So they'll call and ask, do you teach kids? And I think a lot of people would just say no, and that would be the end of the conversation. But I'll sometimes spend 20, 30 minutes talking to that non-student. There's literally no potential for this person to come to my school. And I'll still talk to them about what I think about how they might guide the path of their young child, boy or girl. Suggestions of other schools. I have no problem sending people to other martial arts schools, especially if I can recommend them. And I've had people ask me, why do you spend that time? My dad taught me something when I was a kid, and it's always stuck with me, that it sends a ripple. That person might have a conversation a year from now with somebody, and martial arts might come up, and they might go, you know, there's this guy, simply because I spent the time and gave them my personal time rather than marketed to them. Because I think people I went to school for illustration design and marketing, and people have a natural suspicion of marketing, and they're always kind of looking sideways at it. And they know whenever, I mean, I've always joked that I'm sure Tim will enjoyed this. I've always thought of martial arts schools as men, women, children, self-confidence, self-defense. That's what's always written on the window of every martial arts school. So, okay, I don't exactly know when the self-confidence class is, but that's what they do to promote it. But it's marketing, and people are suspicious of that. They want to have that personal interaction, whether it's by phone, even by text, which is so common nowadays. But you're right, eye contact, handshake, giving that person both encouragement and also being, perhaps in a lot of cases, the one voice of somebody who would actually challenge them on some of their approaches to life. Because especially as adults, we can wander down a wrong road for decades, and maybe somebody never ever said anything. I'm the first person to speak up. I've been jokingly called the Antichrist because I'll speak my mind. I think Tim was talking about how he'll just say what he feels. I'm that guy too. We had an unofficial, way back in high school. We had the official kind of the most likely to succeed kind of list. I was the most talented, and but there was the unofficial one. My best friend, who had a 20+ year career in the army, he was voted most likely to be convicted of a major felony, and I was voted most likely to say what other people would only think about saying. So I think Tim and I probably resonate on that level.
Well, as I tell my students, the parents when they come in, I go, the place that tells you your kid's doing a great job even when they suck? Yeah, that's down the road. This isn't that place.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell your kids when they're screwing up, but then again, I'm going to show them how to get better. I tell the kids all the time, I go, what's the word that your parents use to tell you how much they love you? I don't know. It's
right.
No. If they loved you, they will tell you no. I want to play with the lion. No. I want to jump off the building. No. All right. And why do I tell you you're doing something wrong? Because you want me to do it right. Exactly. So, a good teacher will tell you when you're wrong and show how to get better at doing something. So I don't correct you because I don't like you. I'm not trying to be mean. I mean, we know I'm mean, but I'm not trying to be mean. What I'm trying to do is I know you could do better, and let me help you get there. So, all right. Well, this is an awesome show. I think this is great. We got a lot of good stuff in the conversation. Probably things that people weren't expecting, which is great because I like how we get different answers on the show. That it's not the in the box answers. Oh, use this CRM, use this marketing company, use this, use that. The one that you're going to love, the one you want the most is the one we finished with. The personal connection is probably the most important. Start the culture. Now, I do consulting. But the thing here is a lot of it's just your fundamentals. Remember, it's customer service and creating a good culture in your club. Your people, if they're paying you money, they're expecting something of value. And, here's the thing. My goal is to get as much money from my students as they're willing to give me while providing a quality, valued service. I mean, that's, I'm not trying to rip anyone off. But if they're willing to pay, like I have extra seminars, extra events going on, they don't have to do them. And some people do, and some people don't. Okay. I mean, it is a business. It's what I do. I rent a place 24/7, and I only use it like 3 hours or 4 hours a day. So I try to make sure I've got other, like in the evenings, it's like 3 hours of training. And then I got day classes a couple days of the week. The weekends, we're no longer running official classes. We do that for special events and stuff of that nature, training camps, seminars, orientation, stuff of that nature. There we go. Very well. Time well spent. I'm glad you enjoyed it, Brian. So we plugged Tuhon Jesse's events coming up. Do you have anything you want to plug? Okay, so what's the website that they should look at? What to find you?
Fightalbum.com.
We'll do Tuhon Jesse real quick here. Besides looking in the post office on the wanted posters, how are they going to find you, Tuhon?
I thought he looked familiar.
Don't joke, man. Don't joke, dude. I was voted to be the one that would be imprisoned. So
Hey.
don't joke. I want to plug North Shore School of Martial Arts. So nsama.com.
Okay. And then, Mark, you've got right here below fightingology.com. Or no, fightology.com.
Fightology, like biology. Fightology.com. I've got a book out on. I've got a book out on mastering Semblata. I'm working on another book right now on
nice.
an apex exercise called Come Alive. So that should be out in the next month or so. So
great.
Yeah, I saw that, Mark. I'm really interested in that. So I'll keep looking at your website.
I'd love to have you read it and give me your feelings. That'd be great.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. That'd be great.
And then I'm going to share my event in a couple weeks here, which is our 25th anniversary camp of the World Martial Alliance. I got, in addition to myself, I've got Bobby Tabuada, Professor Jerry DeSano, Mike and May Williams, Ty Botting, PG's Ty Botting, Craig Mason. Not sure schedule-wise. This is a guy who's got a lot of interesting work commitments that get in the way at times, but PG Chad Doolan's supposed to be there, but there's a chance. I just got confirmation from Rich Parsons, who was a classmate of the Pecan lineage of Blintswalk with me, and I've got more people that are supposed to be popping in there. So, and we'll still have plenty of room for that event. There we go. See how that's how it's done. There you go. And then we'll talk about some other. Well, I mean, when we log off, guys, don't log off. I'm going to keep just stay on so we do a little quick debrief. Listen, this is always a pleasure, and this is really, really cool because literally these are guys I've been wanting to talk to. Believe it or not, I want to talk to both of you because once again, the archery. We're going to definitely talk about the archery, and
that guy.
I got to hit the reverse screen, so definitely there's a bunch of things, and I do go out to Chicago once in a while. So now that I know you're out there, I'll
hit me up.
Yeah. And now I'm going to point the other way. And Mark, the man of mystery here, I've heard so much about him. I definitely want to talk about doing feature episodes on both these guys. It may just be me. I might. I'll see if PG Ty is available. Like he and I are like the good cop, bad cop. Not that that's a bad thing. It's just that I'm the bad
right?
cop. I'm always the bad cop. I am Voldemort of modern East world right now. My classmates, a bunch of them, at the point where they don't want to talk about me, so they will do all these verbal gymnastics to avoid using my name. I'm like, dude, I'm all over social media. Why even bother? Just listen. I talk about you guys in a positive way when it comes to events. What's the big deal? Oh, we had this great event with all these other guys and another American. I'm like, come on. When I have you guys in my place, I've talked about events and I've mentioned you guys by name, even though some of you guys I don't like. But I mean, why would I rewrite history? But that's another topic. And then here we go. Last one there, Toto. Okay. Okay, cool. All right. Well, listen, this is always a pleasure. Thank you, gentlemen, for jumping on the show with me. Like I said, it was a blast. And hopefully we will get you on the shows again. So this is Datu Tim and
Mark Mikita
and
Jesse
saying thank you so much, and we'll see you all soon.